What do purchasing perfumes, gifts, meals, and everything else on credit have in common? That's right, a credit card. In the UK alone, credit cards have accounted for almost 124 billion pounds of spending. But how are these little rectangles put together, and what are the various steps involved? Let's explore that in today's video. Step 1. Choosing and preparing the raw materials. The life of a credit card starts in a high-security facilities like those found in Slovakia. This location of the facility isn't advertised, and is often kept secret to deter criminals with plans of heist from coming and poking around. Once inside, there is a design center where the ingredients of the cards are prepared. The cards are made of several layers of plastic that are laminated together. The most commonly used material for the core is a plastic resin, known as polyvinyl chloride acetate, or betterly known as PVCA. This resin is combined with opifying materials, dyes, and plasticizers to give it the correct appearance and consistency. After that, the core material will be laminated with thin layers of PVCA and other transparent plastic materials. Intense pressure and heat are applied to ensure that these laminites will be able to adhere to the core. Of course, the shiny credit cards we use daily are also vividly colored, so there is a wide array of inks or dyes that are used for printing credit cards. The pigments are available in various colors and are designed carefully so that they can be applied on the plastic substrates. The next material is the Pacific magnetic ink to print the magnetic stripe on the back of the card. The credit cards are uniquely designed with a complex security feature to prevent the possibility of fraud. And magnetic strips are one such fantastic security feature. The inks are made by dispersing metal oxide particles in the approximate solvents and then coating the area with these particles of iron oxide. They can be easily encoded with binary information. This will identify your card as authentic. And it isn't common knowledge what type of information is coded on the stripe. And for obvious security reasons, companies do not wish to disclose this information. But the one fact recorded on this magnificent stripe is likely the card's expiration date because ATMs will retain expired cards. Another additional feature that involves unique printing processes and dyes is complex holograms, like the Visa cards. This makes it very difficult to duplicate credit cards. So, these are the primary material and features involved in manufacturing credit cards. The process itself is pretty simple and involves 4 major steps. First, the plastic core and laminate materials will be compounded and cast into sheet form. Next, the core will be then printed with the appropriate information. After that, the laminites are applied to the core, and in the last step, the assembled sheet will then be cut into individual cards we carry everywhere in our wallets and purses. All the steps occur under the watchful eye of security cameras, and the bosses supervise everything to ensure that nothing goes missing from the factory. Now, let's discuss the card making process in detail. Step 2. Plastic compounding and molding. The core sheet is the most essential part of the credit card. The plastic needed for this component is made by melting and mixing polyvinyl chloride acetate with other additives. Once this mixture is prepared, the blended elements will then be transferred to an extrusion molding apparatus. This contraction will force the molten plastic through a small flat orifice, known as die. When the sheets exit this die, it will have to go through a series of 3 rollers stacked on top of each other to pull the sheet along. With the help of these rollers, the sheet will be then kept flat to maintain the proper thickness. After that, the sheets have to be passed through additional cooling units to further harden and solidify the material. Once that is done, they'll be cut into separate sheets by saws, shears, or hot wires. The cut sheets are then entered into a sheet stacker that stacks them into place and stores them for the following operations. A similar extrusion process is utilized to make the laminate films that coat the core stocks. These thinner laminate films can easily be made of a slot cast die process, in which a molten plastic film is spread on a casting roller. The film's thickness and width are determined by the roller, and upon cooling, the thin sheets are stored on rolls until they are ready to be used. Now, there are several issues associated with the compounding of plastic and color matching of the inks. There has to be a proper standard for plastic raw materials, because, like with any compounding procedure, the ingredients must be weighed approximately and mixed, along with blended under the right temperature and light conditions. Not only that, but the molding process also has to be similarly monitored to avoid any defects that may cause the cards to crack or break. Step 3. Printing. The next step is printing and coloring the plain cards. Once the color scheme has been approved, the paint will then be mixed by hand for smaller orders, and the special dyes and ingredients will be kept very secret. After that, the sheets will then be loaded into the printing presses. Of course, these sheets will form the basis for the front and back of the credit cards, so they have to be printed with text and graphics. For that purpose, the company can use a variety of standard silkscreen processes. White is the first color that is added to the process. In the next step, the color scheme the bank wants on the card design will be added to the rollers. A particular device is used to spread the paint out to an even thickness onto the individual laminites. The fascinating part is that one machine can print around 7,000 sheets of new cards every hour. Now, in addition to adding graphics and colors, the laminate films may also be imprinted with magnetic ink, or alternatively, the magnetic strip can be added by the hot stamping method. The magnetic heads used to code and decode the iron oxide particles can only work correctly if the magnetic medium is near the card's surface, so the metal particles must be placed on top of the laminating layer. It seems like an easy enough step, but this is also the stage where the companies must add certain features to ensure the process cannot be duplicated. Several security measures are added that make forgery very difficult. For example, this printing technique makes it incredibly easy to spot a forgery with the help of UV imprint. So when the cards are completed, the special marks imprinted on them will only show under UV light. Pretty cool, isn't it? New credit cards also consist of a protective sheet, the printed front and rear X, along with the high-tech magnetic strip, so duplication is nearly impossible. When the protective sheets have been applied to the sheets, the experts will analyze each sheet microscopically to ensure that they are perfectly safe to use. Any card with flaw elements is instantly rejected and discarded. Now that the printing process has been completed, the core is ready to be laminated. Step 4. Lamination. It's important to laminate the sheets because lamination helps protect the finish of the card and increases its strength. For this step, the sheets of the core stock will be fed through a system of rollers. The laminated stock rolls are positioned above and below the core stock, and they feed the laminate into the vacuum shoes along with the core stock. The vacuum will hold 3 pieces of plastic together while they travel to a tacking station. Once they are at the tacking station, a pair of quartz infrared heat lamps will warm up the upper and lower plastic films. The smooth bonding of the film to the core stock is enhanced by the reflectors of the lamps that focus the radiant energy onto a narrow area of the film. Now it's time to fully bond the core stock by pressing the metal platens, which are heated to 130 Celsius. The entire process takes up to just 3 minutes. This brings us to the final step, embossing those handy little cards with the necessary information. Step 5. Die cutting and embossing. The finished assembly of the laminated films is cut and completed by die cutting methods. First, the assembly is cut longitudinally to form 7 elongated sections. Then, each of the 7 sections is cut and trimmed to form 9 credit cards, so every sheet in the assembly yields 63 credit cards. The last step is embossing the cards with the account number, while one device will add signature strips and the hologram to the cards to help keep your finances safe. And now it's ready. For an insignificant piece of plastic to a wonderful alternative to cash, all that is left to do is now ship it to eager customers in safe packaging. Click one of the 2 videos on your screen right now.